Should I start from the beginning again? Yeah. So good evening, everyone. We had some technical difficulties because of which we had to start a bit late. So the topic for today, as you are all aware, is muscular system. Right now, yeah, in the muscular system, the things that we'll be talking about today. We'll start with the various types of movements that you see in the cells of the body, right? Right. So where we'll be discussing about the various kinds of movements like amoeboid movement, ciliary movement, flagellar movement, and finally we'll end discussing the muscular movements. Then we'll talk about the various types of muscles that we have. So where we'll be discussing the skeletal, skeletal muscles, cardiac muscles, and smooth muscles, right? And once we discuss the various types of muscles, we'll move on to the structure of the skeletal muscle, right? Where we'll be discussing about the various components that are present in the in a skeletal muscle, and then finally we'll close the session by talking about the types of muscle fibers. Okay, where we'll be talking about the slow twitch and the fast twitch muscle fibers. Okay, so these are the various aspects that we'll cover as a part of this session. Okay, we'll start with the first topic, which is types of movements. Now, if you look at the cells of the body has or show 4 different kinds of movements. Okay, so we're talking about types of movements that our cells show. Okay, so types of movements in the cells of the body. Okay, to be clear. Okay, so the various kinds of movement that we see are amoeboid movement, then we have ciliary movement, right? We have ciliary movement, then flagella movement, and then finally we have muscular. Okay, now amoeboid movement, if you look at the amoeboid movement, right, the amoeboid movement can be seen in phagocytic cells like macrophages and dendritic cells. Right, these cells actually show the amoeboid movement. Okay, so here in the amoeboid movement, you will actually see the formation of pseudopodia. Okay, the same kind of pseudopodia that you see in amoeba. Okay, so the false feet are formed. Pseudopodia is nothing but false feet are formed, and the cells actually move from one location to another with the help of the false feet. Okay, now this helps the macrophages and the dendritic cells because these are the cells which help fight infection. So they help fight infection. Since they help fight infection, suppose you have a cut on your hand. Okay, so many microorganisms can actually enter through the incision. Okay, through the cut regions of your skin, many organisms can actually enter your body. Okay, in order to provide protection, the cells, particularly the macrophages and the dendritic cells, they migrate to the region of infection, okay, or region of invasion, and they neutralize the organisms. Okay, so for that process, they use their pseudopodia to move from one location to the other location. Okay, so that is how the amoeboid movement helps the cells like the phagocytic cells like macrophages and the dendritic cells. Okay, now if you look at the ciliary movement, where do you see ciliary movement? If you look at the ciliary movement, right? If you look at the ciliary movement can be seen in tubular organs. Okay, so particularly in tubular organs like your fallopian tubes. Okay, fallopian tubes and vasa afferentia, right? Vasa afferentia, which is your equivalent of the fallopian tubes in your male counterparts. Then also in the respiratory tract. Okay, these are all tubes. Okay, so in those tubes you will actually see ciliary epithelium. Okay, that is, if you look at these tracts, if this is the tube, right, let's say respiratory tract or fallopian tube, you basically have epithelial cells here, and these epithelial cells have several cilia on their surface. Okay, now what these cilia will do is, these cilia have rhythmic movement. Okay, they keep moving constantly, and because of this constant movement, okay, things are transported. Okay, this constant movement of the cilia helps in moving or transport. First thing, how? For instance, if you take your egg cells, okay, if you take your agar, if you take the ovaries actually produce egg cells. Okay, now if you remember the structure of the female reproductive system, basically you have an ovary, right? This ovary is connected to the fallopian tube. Okay, this is your fallopian tube. So what will happen? The ovaries actually produce one egg per month. Okay, of course one ovary every month. So the egg produced by the ovary will start moving through the fallopian tube. So this is actually pushed with the ciliary epithelium of the, so you have ciliary epithelium cells here, and these actually push the egg all the way to the uterus, where it can be, or in the isthmus of the fallopian tube, where it can actually get fertilized with the sperm cell to form the zygote, and the zygote finally moves to the uterus, where it sticks to the endometrium and starts growing. Okay, so the ciliary movement helps in the transport of the egg cell into the fallopian tube for fertilization. In the same way, the sperm cells are also pushed with the help of ciliary epithelium in the vasa afferentia, okay, to come out of the male reproductive organs. Okay, then where else? Like I said, you will see this even in the respiratory tract. In the respiratory tract, okay, these ciliary epithelium, the ciliary movement actually prevents the bacterial harboring. Okay, so the bacteria will not be able to stick to the cells and enter because of the constant movement of the cilia. Okay, these are constantly moving and simply pushing them away. Okay, that is how you are actually getting protection from bacteria and dust particles. Okay, when you breathe in air, the dust particles and the bacteria are going along with the air, and in the respiratory tract you have ciliary epithelia which will simply not allow them to stick to the surface and penetrate into the system. Okay, that way these ciliary movements are actually giving protection to our respiratory tract. Okay, so that is about ciliary movement. What else do we see? So you see the flagellar movement. Third one is the flagellar movement. This flagellar movement can be seen in the sperm cells. Okay, the sperm cells actually have the, if you remember the structure of the sperm cells, you have a head and a long tail, right? Now this long tail is your flagella, and this whip-like flagella, okay, it has constant movements which actually propels the sperms forward, which actually cause the sperms to swim, find the egg cell, fuse with it or fertilize with it and form the zygote. So that way this flagella actually is helping in the movement of the sperm cells. Okay, so that is one example where you will actually see the flagellar movement. Okay, then we finally have the muscular movement. Okay, the muscular movements, where do you see muscular movements? All the moving parts of your body. Okay, the various parts of the body are able to move because of the muscular movements. Okay, and these muscular movements occur as a result of repetitive contractions and relaxations. Okay, repetitive alternating or repetitive contractions and relaxations are responsible for the muscular movements. Okay, now we will look at the various types of muscles. Okay, if you look at the various types of muscles, before actually directly jumping into various types of muscles, I'll tell you briefly the characteristics of muscles. Okay, first I'll just tell you briefly about characteristics of muscles. Muscles have, we can say, 4 different characteristics. Okay, 4 different characteristics. First one is contractility. That is their ability to contract. Okay, and in this contraction you will actually see the movement of the muscle towards the bones. Okay, ability to contract, because of which we say that's one of the characteristics, which is contractility. And then we will also see excitability. Now the muscles are actually supplied with the nerve cells, and the nerve cells or the nerve fibers actually provide the stimulus required for the muscles to initiate contractions or relaxations. Okay, so specifically for contractions you need the signal coming from the nerve fibers, and those nerve fibers cause the muscles to excite, and that excitement is what leads to contractions. Then extensibility. Right, extensibility is opposite of contraction. Okay, so when you are contracting, when your muscles are contracting, some muscles are actually contracting and others are extensing. Okay, the same thing happens when you are trying to extend. The opposite muscles which are actually required for contraction, they contract, because of which you are getting extensions. Okay, so opposing muscle contraction causes relaxation or extension. Okay, and extension is one of the characteristics of the muscles. And the final characteristic that you see in the muscles is elasticity. Okay, elasticity is nothing but the ability to regain its original form. Even after stretching or contracting, whatever they are doing, they come back to their original form in the resting state. Okay, so these are the 4 characteristics of any muscle in the body. Okay, now we'll come back to the topic at hand, which is types of muscles. Now all these types of muscles that we are about to discuss show all the properties. Okay, now the various types of muscles, as you are all well aware, you have basically 3 categories. One is your skeletal muscles, then you have your smooth muscles, then you have cardiac muscles. These are 3 types of muscles. I know you are well aware of these. Okay, so very quickly, skeletal muscles, and this classification is based on the location of the muscles. Okay, this classification is based on the location of the muscles. Now, where are the skeletal muscles located? The skeletal muscles are located, you can actually see them bound to the skeleton. Okay, they are attached to the skeleton or bones. Okay, because of which we are calling them skeletal muscles. Now, smooth muscles they are found in regions like your intestine, right? Where else do you see them? You can actually find them in intestine and respiratory tract, lungs, okay? Lungs, etc. Okay, so this is where you will actually find the smooth muscles. Cardiac muscles, as we all know, these are mainly present in the or only present in the heart. As the name suggests, cardiac is in the heart. Okay, so based on the location, you have three kinds of muscles. What are their characteristics? How are these muscles different from each other? Okay, we'll quickly look at that. Right, first we'll look at the skeletal muscles. Right, look at the skeletal muscles. Like I said, these are attached to the skeleton. Right, they are attached to the skeleton, and then these are usually long, cylindrical. We're talking about the shape here. They're long, cylindrical, and they're multinucleated. They have many nuclei, and they are strong as well, very strong. Okay, now one important characteristic of these muscles is they have striations. That is, they have alternating striations. Okay, so because of these striations, they are called the striated muscles. So you will actually see alternating dark and white regions. Okay, dark and white regions. So because of that, you will actually, you know, so you will find several striations. It looks like stripes. Okay, when you look at the entire picture, it looks like several lines. Okay, so because of which they are also called as, you can even call them striated muscles. Now, if you, the one important characteristic of the other important characteristic of skeletal muscles is these are voluntary muscles. Okay, voluntary muscles. Why do we call them voluntary muscles? They are voluntary muscles because they are under our control. So all the bones that are attached to the skeleton are usually under control, because of which we are, if you want to move the hand, we are able to move the hand, or if you want to open the finger, okay, if you want to move your fingers, we are able to move the fingers, because the muscles, okay, which are actually attached to the bones in your fingers, okay, are under the control of your brain. Okay, so you can actually, under the control of conscious part of the brain. Okay, you can actually, if you want, you can actually move it, or if you don't want, you can stop moving them. Okay, it's up to you. So those muscles which are under your control are voluntary muscles, and skeletal muscles are voluntary muscles. Now, the basic unit of a skeletal muscle is called sarcomere. I'll tell you what sarcomere is when we are actually discussing the detailed structure of the skeletal muscles. Okay, we'll look at the sarcomere there. Okay, now the other important aspect of skeletal muscles is they require high energy. They require high energy, and they have, so energy in a cell is provided by, as we all know, mitochondria. Okay, because of which we call them, the mitochondria are called the energy centers of the cell. Okay, energy centers of the cell. So source of energy for every cell is your mitochondria. Okay, now this mitochondria in the muscle, okay, is called the sarcosome. The mitochondria present in the muscles is called the sarcosome, and this SARCO. Okay, sarcosome, SARCO. The sarcosomes are actually rich, or the number of sarcosomes in skeletal muscles is very high. The number of sarcosomes in, or the number of mitochondria, because you need high energy, and the energy is provided by mitochondria. So whenever the muscles need high energy, you will actually see that in those muscles the mitochondria number is pretty high. Okay, in all those muscles you will see a high number of mitochondria. Okay, so that is about the skeletal muscles. And the function of skeletal muscles, as we all know, is locomotory actions. Okay, so all the movements, walking, whether you're walking, whether you're running, whether you're swimming, all those locomotory actions are because of the contractions and the relaxations of your skeletal muscles. Then if you look at the next aspect, which is the next type of muscle, which is the smooth muscle. Now the smooth muscles, unlike the skeletal muscles that we just saw, there are no striations here. Okay, there are no striations, and these smooth muscles have spindle shaped. They are spindle shaped. What is spindle shaped? Okay, having tapering ends like this. So both ends you have, so it will start with thick body, and then towards the ends it will simply have tapers like this. So cells with this particular structure, okay, a structure like this, are called, this particular shape is called spindle shape, to be precise. Okay, so they have spindle shaped, and these smooth muscles are the smallest and the weakest among the three kinds of muscles. They're not strongest. Okay, strongest muscles are your skeletal muscles, and then these muscles are the smallest and the weakest of all the three. Okay, and one good thing about the smooth muscles is they are highly elastic. Okay, they are highly elastic, and like I said in the beginning, they are found in the intestine, your lungs, wherever you need constant expansions and contractions. Okay, continuous extractions and contractions, there you will actually find the smooth muscles. Okay, so your intestine, lungs, okay, blood vessels, blood vessels. Okay, so in all these regions you will actually see the smooth muscles. Okay, and smooth muscles are involuntary. That is, you can't control your intestine movements. Okay, you can't actually see taking the food into the mouth, that's under your control, because all these muscles, all the muscles of your jaw and jaw, hands and everything are skeletal muscles. Okay, and they are under your control. So once you take your food and once it enters the digestive tract, alimentary canal, okay, you cannot actually control the movement of the muscles or the movement of the food. The movement of the food from there on is controlled by the smooth muscles, which is not under your conscious control. Okay, you cannot actually control the movement of your intestine. Okay, so such muscles are called the involuntary muscles. Okay, and these involuntary muscles, yeah, like I said, have no striations, and then we'll finally move on to the cardiac muscles. Now the cardiac muscles, okay, we all know these are heart muscles, right, as the name suggests, cardiac, and these muscle cells are called cardiomyocytes. There's a name given for the cardiac muscle cells, and these muscle cells that are present in the heart muscles are called the cardiomyocytes. Okay, and these, if you look at the shape, they are short, narrow, okay, and they are roughly rectangular. Okay, not exactly rectangular, they're roughly rectangular. Okay, somewhat rectangular. Okay, so in a way they are more like the skeletal muscles, because even these have striations. These are also striated, but they have yeah, just like your skeletal muscles, these also have the light and the dark bands. Okay, but they differ from the striated skeletal muscles in one aspect. One is these are uninucleated. That is, these have only a single nucleus. Okay, they have only a single nucleus. Unlike your cardiac muscle, unlike your skeletal muscles, which are multinucleated, these have single nucleus. And yeah, and the other important aspect here is these have the highest number of sarcosomes. Okay, as we all know, your heart is under constant contractions, and heart is actually going through constant contractions and relaxations, and that requires a lot of energy. And like I said, wherever you need energy, you will actually see the prevalence or more of the sarcosomes, which are mitochondria. Okay, so highest number of sarcosomes or very high number of sarcosomes can be actually found in cardiac muscles when compared to your both skeletal muscles as well as your smooth muscles. Okay, so and like the smooth muscles, even these are involuntary. Okay, and one important aspect of cardiac muscles is these are autorhythmic. Okay, they contract and relax. The signal which is required for their contractions and relaxations is not coming from elsewhere. The signal is actually being generated within the heart. Okay, so this is autorhythmic, and the contractile force generated by this, okay, the contractile force generated by the muscles, the cardiac muscles, is so high that the pressure generated can actually pump the blood throughout the body. Okay, so the heart acts as a pump because of the contractile force of these cardiac muscles. Okay, so that is about the various types of muscles. Okay, so we'll quickly look at, so these are multinucleated skeletal muscles. Then you have cardiac muscles, which are more or less rectangular, and they are uninucleated. Then you have the smooth muscles with the tapering ends, right? With the tapering ends, and these smooth muscles can be found in your digestive tract, respiratory tract, okay, lungs, etc. Okay, so that is about the three types of muscles. Then we look at a detailed structure of skeletal muscle. Okay, detailed structure of skeletal muscle. Now, if you look at the detailed structure of skeletal muscle, okay, the skeletal muscle, as we all know, is attached to the bone. Okay, so the attachment this attachment, the muscle is attached to the bone with the help of a tendon. Okay, the muscle is attached to the bone with the help of a tendon. Now let's look at the structure of this muscle in detail. Okay, so if you look at the structure in detail, we'll start with the smallest component and then we'll move backwards. Okay, we'll start with the smallest component and move backwards. Now, okay, let me just show this first. Okay, so this white region is your tendon. The tendon is actually helping the muscle to attach to the bone. Okay, so this is your tendon. Now, so this is your entire muscle structure, and if you zoom in into each component, we'll finally see these smallest components. These are the smallest components. Okay, so we'll start with the smallest component, what these components are, then we'll talk about this, and finally the entire thing. Okay, we'll start with the smallest component. So the smallest component here you can see are called the myofilaments. These are called the myofilaments. Okay, now these myofilaments are of two types. Okay, the myofilaments are of two types: actin, myosin. The myofilaments are of two types: actin and myosin. So what you see here, okay, this is your myosin, and the blue thing, okay, is actin. You will see hundreds to thousands of these myofilaments. Okay, these are the smallest units. Many such units, hundreds of such units come together to form the next component, which is your, okay, the next component, which is your myofibril. Myofibril. Okay, now in the myofibril, you will actually see alternating dark and light bands. Okay, you'll actually see dark and light bands. One particular unit, of dark and light band forms a sarcomere. And sarcomere in a myofibril, okay, sarcomere is considered as the functional unit of the skeletal muscles. One portion of the myofibril, one unit of myofibril. Okay, in other words, myofibril is made up of several units of sarcomeres which are assembled one next to each other. So you have one sarcomere, several sarcomeres arranged or assembled in a series will form your myofibril. Okay, and sarcomere is considered as the functional unit of the skeletal muscles. This is the functional unit of skeletal muscles. Okay, this is the functional unit of skeletal muscles. Now, so you have myofibril, the next component. 4 to 20 such myofibrils, come together, okay, to form the next component, which is the muscle fiber. Okay, the muscle fiber is made up of 4 to 20 myofibrils, and myofibril, okay, is made up of, you can see this in two different ways. Okay, myofibril is made up of hundreds of myofilaments, and these myofilaments are arranged in units called sarcomeres, and each sarcomere is a functional unit of the muscle. Okay, one functional unit is your sarcomere. Okay, now this is your muscle fiber, and this muscle fiber is also called as myocyte or muscle cell. One muscle fiber is one myocyte or muscle cell. Okay, now when you're talking about this as a cell, this whole thing as a cell, this is one big cell. Okay, this myofiber is one big cell. Obviously, cell will have all the components. Cell will have the cytoplasm, cell will have the plasma membrane, cell will have the mitochondria. Okay, all those components will be there. So these myofibrils are actually in the cytoplasm of the myocyte. The myofibrils are actually present in the cytoplasm of the muscle fiber, and that cytoplasm of the muscle fiber is called sarcoplasm. Okay, so this entire thing is actually filled with your sarcoplasm. Okay, and the membrane is called, okay, the plasma membrane of the muscle fiber is called sarcolemma. Okay, so the entire muscle fiber have a plasma membrane, and that plasma membrane is called the sarcolemma or plasmalemma, or plasmalemma of the muscle fiber is your sarcolemma. Now what else do we see? So here this is your sarcolemma. Okay, this is your sarcolemma. What else do we see? We also see, Okay, this is 1, 2. We'll also see sarcosomes, which are, like I said, mitochondria of the muscle fiber. Okay, so this entire thing, like I said, is a cell. Okay, is a myocyte, is a muscle cell. So this muscle cell will have cytoplasm, which we are calling sarcoplasm, and inside the sarcoplasm you will see the myofibrils. Okay, then the muscle fiber is covered with the plasma lemma or the plasma membrane, which we are calling the sarcolemma. Then this muscle fiber or the myocyte also has several mitochondria, which we are calling the sarcosomes. Then it also has endoplasmic reticulum. This blue thing that you see here, this is your endoplasmic reticulum, and that endoplasmic reticulum here is called the sarcoplasmic reticulum. It's called the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Okay, so this entire thing is one cell, and that cell is what we call the muscle fiber or the myocyte. And the myocytes, in the cytoplasm of the myocyte, okay, you will see several myofibrils. How many? Precisely 4 to 20 myofibrils can be found in one myocyte. Okay, and each of these myofibrils is made up of hundreds of myofilaments, which are the actin and the myosin. Okay, now moving down, the sarcolemma, okay, the sarcolemma or the plasma membrane of the muscle fiber is surrounded by another connective tissue, and this connective tissue which surrounds the sarcolemma of or the plasma membrane of the muscle fiber is called the endomysium. Okay, the endomysium covers the one muscle fiber. Each and every muscle fiber is actually covered with endomysium. So the entire thing is actually covered with endomysium. So on the top of the sarcolemma, you have another connective tissue layer called the endomysium. So if I have to move from here, endomysium, below endomysium you have sarcolemma, and below the sarcolemma in the cytoplasm, sarcolemma is nothing but the plasma membrane of the muscle cell. In the cytoplasm you have several myofibrils. How many? 4 to 20 myofibrils, and each of the myofibril has hundreds of myofilaments, which are nothing but your actin and myosin. Now there are names given to these filaments. Actin is called the thin filament, myosin is called the thick filament, and this component, understanding this structure is very important, because once you understand this, you will actually understand the mechanism involved in muscle contraction. Okay, so that's a beautiful mechanism which we'll discuss tomorrow, and I hope you attend the session, because it's going to be very interesting. The muscle contraction is a very beautiful mechanism, and it's important for you to understand how the muscles actually contract. Okay, that we'll discuss in the tomorrow's session. Okay, so you have, finally we are at endomysium. Okay, endomysium surrounds the sarcolemma or the plasma membrane of the myocyte. Now several muscle fibers, so this is one muscle fiber, this is one muscle fiber, this is one muscle fiber. Several muscle fibers, okay, several muscle fibers are wrapped in another layer, and this connective tissue layer is what we call the perimysium. This connective tissue layer which surrounds a group of muscle fibers. A group of muscle fibers are surrounded by another connective tissue layer, and this connective tissue layer is what we call the perimysium. Okay, now there's another important term that you have to know here. A perimysium surrounded, okay, this entire thing, this entire unit, that is perimysium with several muscle fibers inside, perimysium with several muscle fibers inside is called fascicle. Is called a fascicle. Okay, so a fascicle is basically perimysium with several muscle fibers inside. Okay, you have fascicle with a perimysium, and inside the perimysium you have several muscle fibers, and each of the muscle fiber is surrounded by endomysium, and below the endomysium you have sarcolemma, and inside the sarcolemma you have sarcoplasm, and inside the sarcoplasm you have several myofibrils, 4 to 20 myofibrils, and inside the myofibrils you have hundreds of myofilaments. filaments, the actin and the myosin. Okay, so that is the basic structure here. So we are at the perimysium. Okay, now so several of these perimysium, okay, this is one perimysium, right? This entire thing is one perimysium, right? This entire thing is one perimysium, this entire thing is one perimysium. So all these perimysium together are wrapped with another connective tissue, and this connective tissue is called the epimysium. That final connective tissue is called the epimysium. Okay, and all these, the epimysium, so you have your epimysium here, and then this is your perimysium. Okay, and the tissue on the muscle fiber, okay, the layer on the muscle fiber is endomysium, right? And then each of the muscle fibers, each of these muscle fibers have a sarcolemma, right? And inside the sarcolemma you have sarcoplasm. Of course, you have sarcoplasmic reticulum, sarcosomes, etc. And inside the sarcoplasm you will actually see several myofibrils, to be precise 4 to 20 myofibrils. And these myofibrils, each of these myofibrils is made up of an assembly of sarcomeres, which is the basic unit or the functional unit of a skeletal muscle. Okay, then each of these myofibrils is made up of hundreds of actin and myosin filaments. So that's the entire structure of the skeletal muscle. Epimysium is made up of type 1 collagen. Okay, and perimysium is actually made up of type 1 and type 3 collagen. This is type 1 and type 3 collagen. Okay, and all the three, epimysium, perimysium and endomysium, are supplied with blood vessels as well as nerve fibers. Okay, the blood vessels of the perimysium are much bigger when compared to the ones which are supplied to the endomysium. But all the three, the epimysium, perimysium and the endomysium, which is the tissue, which is the connective tissue surrounding the muscle fiber, okay, surrounding the, to be precise, surrounding the sarcolemma of the muscle fiber. Okay, so that is about the entire structure of the skeletal muscle. Okay, now these muscle fibers, okay, each of these is a muscle fiber. This entire thing is your muscle fiber. Okay, this entire thing is your muscle fiber. Each muscle fiber, okay, has its own sarcoplasm, that is your cytoplasm of the muscle cell, myocyte, many myofibrils, sarcoplasmic reticulum and sarcosomes. And these muscle fibers, right, these muscle fibers, the skeletal muscles have three different kinds of muscle fibers. Okay, the muscle fibers are of three types. The muscle fibers, okay, each of these round things, they are of three different types. Okay, the muscle fibers are of three types. Okay, we'll look at the types of the muscle fibers now. And this entire thing, this one thing where you have perimysium surrounding the many muscle fibers, this entire thing is called the fascicle. Okay, this is one fascicle. So you have several fascicles. Okay, so many fascicles are surrounded by a connective tissue, and that connective tissue is called the epimysium. So epimysium basically is covering a bunch of or a group of fascicles, and each fascicle has a perimysium with the muscle fibers inside. Okay, so that is about the detailed structure of the skeletal muscle. Then if you move to the next component, which is types of muscle fibers. Okay, so basically the muscle fibers are classified, okay, based on two aspects. One is morphology and their ability to contract quickly or slowly. okay, whether they are able to contract very quickly or very slowly. Okay, so depending on these two aspects, the muscle fibers, okay, the muscle fibers that are present inside the that are actually present inside the skeletal muscle is of three types. Okay, type 1, type 2A and type 2B. Okay, now these two, type 2A and type 2B, are called fast twitching. Okay, and this type 1 is called slow twitching. Now what is twitching? Twitching is single contraction of the muscle. Single contraction of a muscle is called twitching. Okay, so if they contract slowly, okay, those are called slow twitching muscles. If they contract quickly, you have two categories. Okay, in those two categories, 2A are moderate fast twitching. Okay, moderate fast twitching, and 2B are fast twitching. Okay, these are moderate, these are these twitch at a lesser speed than the 2B. Okay, at a lesser rate than 2B. Okay, so we'll look at the differences of these very quickly and wrap up this session. Okay, so here if you take type 1, the name given to them based on the morphology is red slow. They are red in color and they are, like I said, slow twitching. Okay, they don't contract very quickly. And these are also called as slow oxidative fibers. Another name given for them is slow oxidative fibers. Okay, now we need energy for muscle contraction, and that energy is obtained by oxidation. Okay, and oxidation is nothing but burning. Okay, oxidation is nothing but burning. So when glucose is oxidized completely, it's converted into carbon dioxide and you get your energy in the form of ATP. Okay, so then the fact that they are slow oxidative fibers basically indicates that they cannot burn the fuel very quickly, and if they can't burn the fuel very quickly, they don't get the energy quickly, and if they don't get the energy quickly, they cannot contract quickly. Okay, that's the reason why they are called slow oxidative fibers. Okay, and yeah, and so these muscle fibers, okay, these muscle fibers come into picture, or they get they contract. Okay, they contract initially when you are taking things slow. Okay, so these work over a long period. That is, I'll give you an example. Suppose you are walking. Okay, you don't need a rapid or very energy very quickly. Okay, so you are slowly moving, so your muscle fibers, even if they act slowly, that's enough for you. Okay, the contractions are enough for you to walk around. Okay, so in those situations where you need the slower and longer periods, for instance, you are taking a marathon, you need the muscles to be active for a longer period. So in those situations, it is the type 1 muscle fibers that get activated. Okay, and it is the type 1 muscle fibers that contract over a long period of time. They keep contracting and relaxing over a long period of time. Okay, so these are found in muscles where you need the muscles to act over a long period of time. Okay, and in those muscles, these get activated when you need them to act for a very long period of time. Okay, now if you take type 2A, type 2A are these are moderate twitch, these are slow twitch. Type 1 are slow twitch. Okay, so for instance, if you want to start running, okay, first the slow twitch muscle fibers in your muscles will get activated. Okay, but the minute your muscles realize that the slow twitch is not going to work because they are not providing enough energy, these get shut down, these stop working, and then the fast twitch ones are activated. Okay, so the slow twitch fibers will stop working and the fast twitch fibers will now get activated. Okay, whenever you need very quick movements, okay, you need lots and lots of energy, and in those situations the fibers that get activated are not the type 1 fibers, it's the type 2A or type 2B. Okay, type 2A for moderate activities like running or swimming. Okay, so these are moderate twitch. Okay, these are moderate twitch and moderate fast twitch. Okay, you can say moderate fast twitch, and these are red and fast based on the morphology. These are red and these are red, and based on the based on the ability to contract quickly or slowly, these are fast. Okay, and since they are contracting very quickly, they have high mitochondria or sarcosomes. Okay, high mitochondria number, right? And contraction or oxidation requires high oxygen levels, because oxidation requires oxygen. Okay, oxidation requires oxygen. So in order to provide oxygen to the various parts of our body, we have hemoglobin in your blood. Okay, in the muscles you have myoglobin. So they are rich in myoglobin because they need constant supply of oxygen for burning the fuel very quickly and providing the energy for fast activities. Okay, so they have high myoglobin number as well. Okay, and rich in myoglobin, and these are more fatigue resistant. Okay, they don't get tired very quickly. These muscles don't get tired quickly when compared to the next category, type 2B. Okay, when compared to type 1, definitely they get tired quickly. Okay, they get fatigued quickly. But when compared to the next category, which we'll discuss, type 2B, these don't get fatigued quickly. Okay, then they require constant supply of energy. They require constant supply of energy, right? They require constant supply of energy, and these muscle fibers get activated in particularly in muscles required for in muscles required for swimming. You will see that these are the muscle fibers which are active. Okay, in all those muscles required for swimming, you will see that these muscle fibers are the ones which are actually active. They get activated, and these are the ones which are actually providing continuous supply of energy, because swimming takes a lot of energy. Okay, then you have the final type, which is type 2B. Okay, and based on the color, okay, based on the morphology, these are white and they are fast, and the name given to them is fast twitching. Okay, these are also called as fast glycolytic fibers. Okay, the reason why they get this name is, in these muscles you will see glycogen storage. Okay, you will see glycogen being stored, and that glycogen is nothing but a polymer of glucose. Glycogen is very quickly broken down to glucose. Okay, and that glucose is finally oxidized to give energy required for these fibers. Okay, very quickly you will get energy because glycogen is already stored in the muscle fibers. Okay, and when compared to type 2A, how is it different? When compared to type 2A, it has glycogen, high amounts of glycogen, and then the mitochondria is less when compared to type 2A. Okay, and the myoglobin also is low when compared to type 2A, and these are less fatigue resistant. Not just when compared to type 2A, when compared to type 1 also, these muscle fibers get tired very quickly. Okay, and yeah, these muscle fibers you will actually see getting activated when you need rapid, okay, short and rapid and short contraction. Okay, let me just put it this way: short and rapid contractions. Whenever you need short and rapid contractions, okay, you will see these muscle fibers getting activated. So if I have to give you an example, when you want to jump, okay, jumping requires very quickly, you need to get enough energy to actually jump. Okay, so that short and rapid burst of energy is provided by the muscle fibers of type 2B. Okay, type 2B muscle fibers will very quickly convert, okay, will very quickly generate the energy required for the contractions, and so these are the ones which actually come into picture when you are jumping. Okay, so this is about the various types of muscle fibers. So with this we come to the end of this session. So tomorrow we'll be talking about how the actin and myosin filaments are helping in the contraction of the muscles, and yeah, that will be the topic which will be the last topic in the muscular and the skeletal system, that is the locomotion and movement, a chapter in the 11th grade syllabus. Okay, so see you tomorrow. We'll talk about muscle contraction in detail, the various mechanisms involved at the molecular level and all. So with that, we'll end this session. Subscribe on our channels, YouTube, Facebook and Instagram. Try our app, download it. There are many things there which you will find interesting. Okay, so see you tomorrow. Bye.